All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Rocky Top Insider post-game show. This is Ryan Schumpert. I am Rick Butler. We're standing right here in the middle of Stegman Coliseum after Tennessee's whirlwind victory over Georgia by a score of 85-79. Ryan, there are so many places that we could start with this, but let's just kind of start with the broad view, the roller coaster that the game was. Tennessee somehow, some way survives this game, survives a place that they historically have not here in the last 10 years or so, but they were able to pull it out today. Why? In your opinion, why was Tennessee able to pull it out at the very end?
Well, the reason they were able to pull it out was Dalton Knecht. I mean, he was unbelievable, going for 36 points, 20 of them in the second half. And, I think it's easy to point to Tennessee ends the game. You kind of alluded to this, but Tennessee gets up by 14 in the first half. They fall behind with 11, with about 6.5 left, and then they end the game on what ended up being a 15-1 run. He scores 9 points in those final 15, including a contested 3 to take the lead with, about 2 minutes left in the game. And I think that's easy to point to. But throughout the second half, when Tennessee was reeling, and Georgia, at one point you had a good tweet. What was Georgia, 7 of 10?
7 of 11.
7 of 11.
Yeah.
I think it even got to 8 to 12. I think Georgia made their next three-pointer, 8 to 12 from three-point range. Obviously, Tennessee fell behind by 11. It wasn't like they were right in it the whole time, but they didn't just get run out of the gym from that shooting performance, because Dalton Knecht scored a lot of points in that stretch too, and kind of kept them afloat. Kai Ziegler did some good things too. Jonas Aidoo was fantastic, more in the defensive end and on the glass. But certainly it starts and ends with what Dalton Knecht did today for Tennessee.
Yeah, he was terrific. And if you really go back and you look at it in these road contests, he's been fantastic for Tennessee. He's been one of Tennessee's most dominant players, even with the loss to North Carolina and whatever else might be there. It seemed like today might have also been a loss for a few good moments there in the second half. Dalton Knecht, though, has been fantastic away from Knoxville, as he's averaging more than 30 points on the road. Again, one of the heroes for Tennessee in this game. Really was able to change the course of the game in those last final minutes as he took it over. Rick Barnes talked about him having a mindset, him having that look in his eye. And I think when you're talking about sports and athletes, everybody knows what kind of that look is. And not every player has it, but it seems like Dalton Knecht might be one of those guys.
Certainly, and on the road, 4 games, it's 31 and change.
Okay.
68% shooting, I believe, maybe 65% shooting from the field, 48 from three-point range. And what's crazy about it is when I was compiling that, I wanted to go throw Michigan State in there. It was an exhibition, it was on the road. And I couldn't find it because it was an exhibition, but I think he had like around 24 points. Now that would have brought his numbers down. Lackluster road performance, scoring 24 in an exhibition win at Michigan State. But no, he was fantastic. And I think when you talk about the different mode that this team has this year, so much of it is because of him. There's other guys that are playing better. The 2 guys we talked about, Zakai and Jonas, I think are big. 2 probably the biggest examples of guys that are playing better this year. Probably Jermaine Mashack too. But Dalton Knecht just has a different gear and an ability to bail Tennessee out. And he obviously doesn't done it every game. He's had some struggles too, but it was a bailout tonight. And this place was rocking, and Tennessee seemed all but dead. They weren't completely dead because of a lot of that stuff I talked about. Dalton Knecht making some big baskets, and then they clamped down on defense, and he went off in the final minutes.
Absolutely. All right, you've mentioned 2 guys. I'm going to talk about them real quick, and then you can start with either one of them that you want. Zakai Ziegler had, I believe, 8 first-half points, but at the same time he had 6 turnovers. Just getting a little loose and careless with the ball. There was a couple of plays. I remember one down here where he thought that Dalton Knecht was kind of running to the corner, tried to throw a kind of a long wraparound pass, and it just missed. He followed that up, though, with a 0 turnover second half, and I think that's what you look for out of your veteran. You might not expect perfect play. Sometimes something like a 6 turnover half is going to happen, but you want to see how they respond, especially in the second 20 minutes. Thought he was really impressive job just kind of coming back, controlling himself better, and getting Tennessee where they needed to. Also, Dalton Knecht just started taking the ball down the court for a lot of it, and he ran that 2-man game with Jonas. Jonas, on the other hand, though, you mentioned his defensive ability, ends the game with 15 rebounds, almost had a double-double, I believe, but also had 5 blocks. He was nasty in the paint for Tennessee tonight, and a big reason why Georgia, you alluded to it a second ago, was pretty successful from the three-point range, especially there in the second half. They weren't as successful by the rim, and a lot of that reason was because of Jonas.
Yeah, well, I'll start with Zakai. It was far from one of his best games and how he's played the last 3 or 4 weeks. I think he had 4 assists by the under 16 timeout in the first half. He only ends up with 5 assists to 6 turnovers. Obviously, that's not good. He's been much better there of late. But he was kind of the other guy that, not that he was nearly as good offensively as Dalton Knecht, but he had some big baskets in the second half. He did some good things to kind of keep Tennessee afloat. So a solid performance by him. Certainly a guy that remained aggressive. And again, second half, he didn't have a turnover, and he was playing very aggressive, and even though it wasn't perfect the whole time, a good performance. Jonas, I'm going to tie it in 2 points. I think when Tennessee fell behind, certainly there's some bad three-point luck when a team is shooting 8 of 12 for over a stretch of the game. But there was a lot of really bad defense in that stretch too. It honestly reminded me a lot of the Loyola loss Tennessee had in 2018 in the tournament, where Georgia hit a bunch of shots early in the second half.
Memory.
And then Tennessee, they just over-contested these shots, flybys, pump fakes. It got Tennessee into defensive rotations really early on, and that led to a lot of open threes. Credit Georgia, they played really good offense off of it too. But I think what makes that so frustrating, and a couple times just losing guys, which Dalton Knecht did on the first possession of the second half, is this is a Georgia team that shoots the three-pointer well, really struggles to score at the basket. And I don't remember off the top of my head, but Georgia shot a really low percentage of the basket in this game.
Yeah.
And a big part of that is Jonas Adu, who, especially in the final 6 minutes, when really Tennessee really tightened things up, they defended the three-point line much, much better. It forced Georgia to the basket. Adu was really strong there, and he finished off some possessions with some big rebounds.
Last thing that I kind of want to finish on real quick from here on the court of Stegman Coliseum. You wrote about this, so I would like to selfishly get your first reaction out of it. But last week after the Mississippi State game, I believe, you wrote about kind of how Tennessee's veterans needed to step up a little bit more. And obviously that was some of what Coach Barnes was saying, so on and so forth. Just kind of where are you on that? It wasn't a great game from either one of them today, but they did nice things respectively on the floor. Just kind of where do you stand yourself with Tennessee's veterans right now?
Yeah, I mean, I thought Josiah Jordan-James was really worse tonight than he was at Mississippi State. And he probably ended up with a few more points, but again, wasn't great offensively. And then like Rick Barnes said, I thought he forced some things. He had a couple bad turnovers. He got beat on a backdoor cut in the second half. He fouled, which ended up being a flagrant foul.
It almost seemed to snowball.
Yeah, it did. And I think I texted someone at halftime and said Jemai needs to play more than Josiah in the second half, and then that proved to be the case down the stretch. Josiah wasn't on the court. Someone also tweeted at me like, do you start looking at Josiah not playing as much? I don't really think so. He's just kind of a streaky player. You want more consistency. You need these bad games to be better. Certainly, you do what Tennessee did tonight. You don't play him the final 10 minutes when he struggles. Santiago Vescovi, on the other hand, again, wasn't a big night for him. But I thought he did some much better things. Foul trouble kept him on the bench a lot in the first half. I will say his second foul was just a really, really dumb one, a really careless one that sent Georgia to the free throw line because they were in the bonus, sent him on the bench. And he, again, wasn't great offensively, but he passed the ball well. I think he ended with 5 or 6 assists. He played good defense, and he had a really big shot in Tennessee's comeback. I think Dalton Knecht got to the foul line, made the first free throw, missed the second one. Tennessee got an offensive rebound. Georgia all out of sorts. Vescovi hits a 3, and I think that maybe cut Georgia's lead, that possession, from like 8-4 with around 4 or 5 minutes left to play. Obviously, that was a huge possession as Tennessee was trying to claw back. Yeah,
absolutely. It's really interesting to watch him play, and you can go back and hear what Rick Barnes had to say about both those players over during his press conference, which is on the RTI YouTube channel right now for you to watch. Wherever you're watching this, just go make a few more clicks, and you'll get over to the press conference videos. Anything else as we kind of wrap things up from Athens here?
Just one Tennessee needed, especially when you talk about them trying to win the SEC title. You couldn't afford to lose this game. A lot of those mistakes got to be cleaned up, but they came out with a win. At the end, that's all that matters. It's hard winning on the road in the SEC. You said it leading in here. This has not been a place Tennessee's won at very much, and there's been a lot of lackluster to bad Georgia teams that Tennessee struggled with. So they got it done, which is what matters in the end.
A whirlwind victory for Tennessee right here in Stegman Coliseum. Tennessee avoids a second straight loss, avoids back-to-back losses on the road with a big win here in Athens that they can build on for the future. Tennessee's going to go back to Knoxville, and after this 2-game road stretch, they get the Florida Gators coming into town to Thompson Bowling Arena at the Food City Center coming up on Tuesday night. That's going to be a good one. Again, an SEC clash, a rivalry clash. But this, like you were alluding to, Ryan, this was a game that Tennessee can build on and one that they needed to just kind of get the gears back turning, to get in the right direction. And now Tennessee is going to go look to defend home court against their rival Florida Gators coming up this Tuesday night. Otherwise, we've still got work to do. So we're going to head back up to the Crow's Nest right now. We're going to get our work done, which you can go and check out right now over at RockyTopInsider.com. You can check out videos, post-game analysis, post-game press conferences, whatever it is, we will have it over on RockyTopInsider.com. So with that being said, for Ryan Schumpert, I'm Rick Butler, right here from Athens, Georgia, and Stegman Coliseum. We'll see you back for the next one. You've been listening to the Rocky Top Insider post-game show.